It's really rare for a professional athlete to give us any sort of objective insight into their injury. So when I saw Karolina Kowalkiewicz share this picture about her injury she suffered at UFC Fight Night this past weekend, I knew this was a unique educational opportunity. Welcome back everyone to your #1 source for learning about everything related to sports injuries and sports medicine news. In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about Karolina Kowalkiewicz's eye injury, specifically going through the images from her CT scan that she posted along with the story about her injury. Make sure you guys are subscribed if you like learning about this type of content and want to stay up to date with my future videos. And let's get started. Kowalkiewicz was injured at UFC Fight Night 168 and recently shared this image talking about her injury in an accompanying video. She talked about having a small piece of bone that had broken off, how initially her vision was very blurry and kind of double vision, how the doctors weren't letting her fly home because of how risky this injury was, and then discussions about surgery. This picture is one of the images from her CT scan. We can see the white bones, and then we can see the black air with kind of the gray soft tissues in between. What we can see from her CT scan is something called an orbital floor fracture. This is a particularly serious injury because you can risk damage to the muscles that control the eye, leaving you with potentially permanent trouble with your vision. We can see the specific fracture right here. You can tell there's a little piece of bone missing in this area that we call the orbital floor. Also on this CT scan, we can see the maxillary sinus, which is this black air-filled space. We can see the ethmoid sinus, which is the space behind the nose. And then we can of course see all of the orbital tissue. When someone has an orbital wall fracture at any of the locations around the eye, you run the risk of getting entrapment of the different muscles controlling the eyeball. And there's actually quite a few of these muscles that help our eyes to look in all the different directions that they do. Remember that our muscles basically function like ropes, and so in order to move our eyes to the side, to move our eyes up and down and all around in circles, we need to have little ropes, so to speak, at different points along the eyeball to control that positioning. You can tell already from this picture how close some of these muscles are to the bone that surrounds the eye. What's really neat is we can go back to the CT image and we can actually identify some of those structures. Here in the middle of the orbital tissue, we can see a round structure. That's your optic nerve. That's your cranial nerve that's carrying that signal from the light received into the back of the eye all the way back to your brain where it processes that image. And then we can see these structures highlighted here are actually cross-sections of those muscles that control the movements of the eye. You can compare kind of a graphical depiction of this with the CT scan to see exactly how all those structures are lined up. All the other grayish tissue we see here in the orbital area is actually fat that's in there to help protect and cushion all of these different structures. Karolina said that during the fight, she had a lot of trouble with double vision and blurry vision. In order for our eyes to not see double, it's really important that the coordination of all those different muscles are acting at exactly the same time so that our eyes are focused exactly on the same spot. If one muscle is activated when the other's not, you get all this what we call disconjugate gaze, where you can start to see double. So in her case, it's possible that her double vision was just from the hit and having concussion-like symptoms, but it's also certainly possible that there was some entrapment of one of those muscles controlling the eyeball that was causing the eye to not be able to line up exactly with her uninjured side. If we look back at her CT image, we can see some tissue that's down here in that maxillary sinus. It's possible this is simply just fat from within that orbital cavity, but it's also possible that this is some of that muscle, specifically either the inferior rectus or the inferior oblique muscle, that's been entrapped down below that fracture. One of the big reasons Karolina couldn't fly right away is because of all the pressure changes that would occur whenever you change altitude. What used to be a nice tightly enclosed space now has a hole in the bottom, which is going to change the amount of pressure that your eyeball actually sees and could result in any worsening of a potential injury. As you guys saw, the eye anatomy is extremely complex and extremely fine-tuned to allow someone to have proper vision, especially what they would need for something like mixed martial arts. I wish all the best to Kowalkiewicz in her recovery here, and I appreciate her taking the time to share this with us to help educate others and talk about what exactly is going on here with these types of injuries and the anatomy of the eye. Thank you as always for watching, everybody. Let me know any questions or comments you have below, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.